Welcome to the Mind Your Business Show, where we're going to talk business and therapy. We're going to talk business coaching specifically and therapy. Two things that are really in a deficit in the small business community. Many people start a business not realizing that they need business coaching and that they need therapy. You need business coaching because you start a business oftentimes with professional skills, which are how you service clients. You develop professional skills on the job with your degrees, with your certifications, with your work experience. You learn your craft, but when you decide to leave your job and start a business, you now need to have business skills in order to make money. And this is something that many people don't realize, and this is why they struggle. They know how to service clients, they don't know how to get clients. Business skills are how you get clients. And as far as therapy goes, a job is a huge amount of protection for most people. As much as you may hate your job, it is protecting you from unresolved issues that you may have and still allowing you to make money. With a job, you can have a lot of unhealed trauma, a lot of unaddressed issues, and a check still comes in every 2 weeks. But when you quit that job and start a business, some of those unresolved issues will prevent you from making money. And this is something that a lot of people find out the hard way, and they struggle, but not knowing why they're struggling. Why are they not able to make money? Why are they not able to be successful when they're a master at their craft? And it's because you have unresolved issues that are preventing you from making money. And you really need to seek some therapy in order to resolve those issues so that you can achieve the business objectives that you have in mind. And so I've come together with my co-host, Marsha Evans. Marsha is a licensed professional counselor, and I am a marketing strategist and a small business advisor. I'm Lindsay Ruffin, and again, my co-host is Marsha Evans. This is the Mind Your Business Show. This is the first episode. You can look for a new episode every week. And this week, our first topic is going to be imposter syndrome. An article came out recently called Why Everyone Feels Like They're Faking It. The concept of imposter syndrome has become ubiquitous. Critics and even the idea's originators question its value. This article, imposter syndrome, was originally imposter phenomenon, and I believe it was about 50 years ago that the two professors coined this term, and it kind of has taken a life of its own in the era of social media. And so this article does a revisit of the concept, the original concept, with the originators of the concept, and it does some additional exploration in current times with different perspectives that were not considered in the original research. And so that's what we're going to talk about it today. Marsha is going to talk about it from the therapy perspective. I'm going to speak on it from the small business perspective because I see a lot of either imposter syndrome or something that is mislabeled as imposter syndrome, particularly in the community of Black women business owners, and that's what we're going to discuss today. So without further ado, we're going to get into it, and I'm going to hand it off to Marsha.
Thanks, Lindsay. What's up? So this is the first show for Mind Your Business, and I really want to talk to you about just around the mental health around imposter syndrome, Black women, business owners, just women in general, really. I think that imposter syndrome, I see that coming into my private practice around wearing this mask that they speak about in this article, about I think that sometimes people don't even know they're wearing the mask, and just teaching them how to take it off, what is their personality like, and how they want to present to the world. So, Lindsay, what I want to know is kind of what struck you in this article.
What probably the main thing is what was not covered from my perspective in working with small business owners. What I see in this article is imposter syndrome within the context of corporate employment, and particularly the difference in imposter syndrome for white women versus Black women, or the perspective on it. What I saw in the article is, white women, their perspective, the original originators of the research are two white women, so of course they presented it from their perspective, and which is a perspective of feelings of self inadequacy,
Right.
wondering if you've gotten over on people, or somehow gotten into a position that you didn't earn, and you're not worthy of it. Whereas the black women in the article are saying that, well, that's really not our experience. We have to work very hard, extremely hard to get everything we have, and every room we find ourselves in, we worked very hard to get there. Our problem is feeling being undervalued or underrated, not feeling like we're not good enough. It's, we're being oppressed. We're not oppressing ourselves, and I see that. I get that. I understand that that's a real thing. But the perspective that I see it from is the small business community. I see these women after they have decided that they're done with corporate America. They're tired of the glass ceiling. I call it the black women's glass ceiling. I say it's about a 15-year cycle. You get freshmen every year. There's a new crop of freshman girls who go to college. And about 15 years later, they're the ones who are exiting corporate America because they've realized that they were sold a lie. Getting the credentials and doing everything that they were supposed to do, they're still not being allowed to advance because of race and gender. And so they leave and start businesses. Black women start more businesses than any other demographic. So by the time I encounter these women, they are highly skilled professionals. They've had to work extremely hard and be over credentialed just to get into the room. And so by the time I see them, they have incredible skills, abilities, and they're highly skilled professionals, and they don't charge what they're worth. And this is something that I've seen over and over and over and over again with many different women across different industries, but it's the same story. They significantly undervalue their solutions that they provide to the extent that I've seen more than one occasion a black woman business owner. I looked at her pricing. I was like, "Yo, you need to add a zero to that. You're charging about 10% of what you're delivering is worth." And the challenge that I faced is that I got a lot of pushback. I've gotten vigorous pushback on that, and it's consistent. The notion that they're worth more and can charge more is not received well at all. And it was after experiencing this over and over and over again with different women that I realized that this was not something that I was going to be able to help them with. This was not a coaching issue. I could show them what to do and how to do it to get more money, significantly more money, to accomplish the things that they said they wanted to accomplish, and they won't do it. They will resist. In many instances, it became a thing of self-sabotage where we start in the beginning with, let's set your objectives. What are you trying to accomplish? I want this, this, and this. Let's assign a revenue target to that. Okay, yeah, I want this much money. Okay, so here's the plan for doing it. We're going to start here. We're going to put this in place. We're going to restructure your pricing. We're going to start doing. And so it's a systematic process. I work with service-based business owners, people who sell their knowledge, their expertise. When you have knowledge, when your product is your knowledge, the process for monetizing it is the same process for everybody. It's we're going to productize that knowledge, turn it into a digital product, put it in some form, and we're going to use the internet to sell that to as many people as possible. That's how you can scale that business. It's a low-cost business to scale because you don't have to manufacture anything. You already paid for the knowledge you have. And so it's a very systematic process I have for helping people achieve, significantly increase their revenue. And what I would see is these women would be fine with the program but then once it started working, they could start to see that it was actually working. They slam on the brakes, self-sabotage. They would do anything except take the next step forward once they could see that the program was actually working. And I would ask, it became frustrating when you have a process that is working and the person derails the process because they see that it is working and moving them towards what they wanted. And seeing that over and over and over again with different people was what led me to conclude that this was not a coaching issue. The coaching was not going to be the solution to this. There needed to be some type of some type of therapy, something that I was not qualified to provide. And so that's when I came to realize that, okay, there's some issues here that a professional therapist needs to address. And this is a really widespread problem because it is the exact same thing I keep seeing over and over and over again with different people.
Well, it's interesting because in the article they actually talked about two different like scenarios where the women came from families where one of their siblings was deemed the smart one, or they were deemed the like the perfect one, right? And so they battled with, if their parents saw them perfect and then the world didn't, they battled with that and they didn't want to be found out. And it's interesting because I come from a family where my sibling was deemed the perfect one, and that I would self sabotage. Like, I didn't start enlisting a mentor way into my career, like, really, like, maybe in the last 4 or 5 years. But also, I didn't want anyone to see my deficiencies. Like, I didn't want anybody to see like what I wasn't strong in. And I'm wondering if that's is one of the issues of, hey, they see this is moving in the right direction but not wanting to be exposed. And I know that people come into my practice with these things of, why can't I complete this, why am I self-sabotaging this? And sometimes I, not all the times, but I get them to understand what's in their bag, what did their parents give them, what did their ancestors give them, and also how's it playing out in various parts of their lives. And I think that, I know for me, one of the things that helped me was I played sports, but that I could like divide and conquer, but I understood the concept of team and my role. And I think that in the article they talked about just not wanting to be found out and being fraudulent, and just these different, the false self and the true self.
I'm glad you brought up that part of the article because I forgot to address it. There's I'm actually just gonna read it. Clance and Imes' original paper identified two distinct family patterns that gave rise to imposter feelings. Either women had a sibling who had been identified as the smart one, or they themselves had been identified as superior in every way: intellect, personality, appearance, and talent. You spoke on the first scenario where the other sibling was identified as the smart one. And the second case they present here is when the individual themselves was identified as the one that was superior in every way: intellect, personality, appearance, and talent. And this is coming from the parents, but in the community of Black women, I think that second scenario is coming from society in the and a comprehensive marketing campaign in the form of this Black girl magic stuff.
Right.
Black women are strong and independent and invincible and can overcome anything no matter what's thrown at them, and blah blah blah. That is an impossible standard to live up to. And what the article presents is the crisis in the individual comes from having these impossibly high standards imposed upon them, and basically being told that you're invincible, but that's not the experience that they're having in life. They're having
Right.
the normal struggles that everybody has, because we all have to work through things. Things don't work out most of the time. And when you've been told you're perfect, but you find yourself struggling with a whole lot of things, which is normal, that that conflict causes you to wonder, well, maybe it's just me that I'm deficient, according to this article. So I'm thinking, what I see is that this second dynamic that they're describing is not coming from parents; it's coming from society. I've been vocal about the whole Black girl magic thing. I don't like it. It's not healthy. It's not productive, in my opinion. It's imposing impossible standards on individuals that it's just, no one can succeed in life doing everything themselves. We
Right.
human beings are designed to interact. We're social creatures. You need teamwork to accomplish anything, particularly in the small business world. When you start a business, you are not going to be successful doing everything by yourself. And when you're told you can do everything by yourself and you start a business and you cannot do everything by yourself, it creates quite a bit of conflict within the individual, a crisis within the individual, There's, I work primarily with women business owners, and I listen a lot, and I know about stuff that, you know, things they're doing, self medicating with alcohol. That wine therapy is a thing, not a good thing.
Right.
Um, some people are self medicating with prescription medications, antidepressants, anti anxiety stuff, things that you would not need if you were not imposing unrealistic standards upon yourself and trying to do everything alone. It's just it's these women are being put on a path to failure, and it's not their doing. They're following what they've been told, but they've been told a lie. You just can't be successful in small business by yourself. And that second dynamic that's discussed in this article, um, being told that you're superior in every way, and then not being able to live up to that, and the feelings of inadequacy that come from that, that's what I think I've been seeing anecdotally as a business coach. And this article is extremely helpful for me in that regard, seeing that, okay, that's probably where this is coming from. Maybe if I can, try to figure out a solution, or working, like, was reaching out to you, let me find a therapist that I can partner with so that we can work together to provide people with, I deliver the technical training. Here's how you grow this business. And the therapy part is learning how to work out those issues that you're having that prevent you from doing the things that you need to do in order to be successful. So that's why I was really excited to start the show off with start the Mind Your Business show off with this particular topic, because imposter syndrome, or whatever, if it's not imposter syndrome, maybe it's mislabeled as imposter syndrome and it's something else. Whatever it is pervasive, particularly in the community of Black women business owners. And if we can figure out some solutions to this, we can help a lot of people live a lot more fulfilling lives.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think sometimes it's these layers, right? It's kind of like, what's these layers in their personal life? What's these layers in their professional life? How does the world see them? And I think that if we can decrease, or if they really want to live the life they deserve, those are the layers that they'd have to start pulling back. Those are the layers of, how am I showing up for my friends? Is it because I want to present as this one person, but your internal battle is pretty messed up? Like, it's a me versus me battle. And I think that a lot of people desire, I think there's been, especially during COVID, there's this been desire, a push to be an entrepreneur, have a small business. But a lot of times people don't understand the work that goes into it. It's not easy. Um, Even going down to like taxes or getting, it's just not easy. But I think that it's these layers in the mental health perspective, these layers. And sometimes I get people who are scared to like pull these layers back, because it's going to change the way that they dance with their families, with their friends. And they don't want to be seen as anything different than what they're currently seen as, but it's causing so much unrest internally. They can't get sleep. They're not getting sleep. They're gaining weight. They can't lose weight. They might be struggling in their, romantic relationships, or not have a relationship, um, because they've checked all these boxes of getting all these accolades, but they don't know how to show their true self to a partner. So when they get really close to somebody, they actually will sometimes become aggressive, or self sabotage the relationship, or pick a wrong partner because that partner is based off their image out in the community. And I just think that in this article, it did a really good job of talking about the mask that one wears, and kind of the three stages of this mask, of your mask that you have on, what's your personality behind the mask, and what is it like to live life if you didn't have the mask on. And I think that in my practice, we work on that. And I think that a lot of people wear the mask, and I think that it impacts Black women a lot, because you do get the message of being strong. You do get the message of, oh, I'm independent. Like, if we think about songs, we are what we eat. So we are what we listen to, we are what we watch, and we are what we subscribe to. And it really, um, you really got to look at the ingredients of your day. What are you plugging into? Black girl magic, it doesn't speak to me, right? And for me, it doesn't speak to me because the message in my household was I was a person. It wasn't that, hey, I knew I was black, but it got pushed in that. So I don't really plug into that, but I do plug it. I've plugged into working hard and putting my head down and working. And I know that that's gotten in the way of me living the life I deserve. And I started making changes. But yeah, I totally agree.
Talk a little bit more about the importance of perhaps leaving behind that existing social network and building a new one, because that's something that small business owners that I see often struggle with is forming relationships. Well, so I'll explain it this way. There's a basketball coach, legendary basketball coach, John Wooden, who said, you will never outperform your inner circle. And he had a very simple methodology for helping you figure out if you needed to make some changes. He said, take a piece of paper and make 3 columns on it. The first column is your professional network. Second column is your personal network. Third column is any social clubs or organizations that you're a member of. And he said, for each column, write down the 5 people who you spend the most time with: professional network, personal network, social clubs, and organizations. He said, once you've gotten your list, ask yourself 2 questions. Is for each person, is this person going where I want to go? And is this the kind of person who I want to have along with me on the journey? Is this person going where I want to go? And is this person the kind of person I want to have along with me on the journey? And he said, if the answer to either of those questions is no, you got to get rid of that person and recreate your circle, your top 5 people, because you're not going to get where you're trying to go if you're surrounded by people who are not going to help you get there. And I think that's something that is probably revelatory to many people, and then there are other people who understand it but struggle with executing it, living by it. It's easy to get rid of the jerks. Well, it's easy for some people. It's easy for me to get rid of the jerks. I will. Some people have a challenge getting rid of people in their lives who are not good for them. What's more difficult is getting rid of or significantly decreasing the amount of time you spend around the really wonderful, kind people in your life who just aren't going anywhere, or they're not going where you want to go. You can't anchor yourself to these people because they're happy where they are. If you're trying to get somewhere else and they're happy where they are and you're spending significant time around them, you're not going to pull them where you're trying to go. They're going to keep you where you are. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. But from my perspective, it really comes down to, you have this one life. That's the only one you're going to get. And if you don't take the actions that are necessary for you to accomplish what you want to accomplish in that life, you're not going to get another shot at it. And you can't blame anyone but yourself. And I think maybe men would have an easier time doing that than women. Y'all are generally more empathetic and caring about the feelings of others, and less likely to jettison people, I guess. Whereas, I run my life like a professional franchise. You want a spot on this team, you got to help. You got to be contributing to a championship. And if you're not, you're a great person, love you to death, but I got to cut you. I need somebody in that spot that's productive, that's going to help me get where I'm trying to go. And I think that's much easier for me to say. I recognize that's much easier for me to say and do as a man because we get evaluated differently. But women business owners have to embrace some form of that same message, maybe with a velvet glove, or I don't know how, but the point is the same. The law still applies. The people who you're spending the significant time with are going to determine where you go in life. And if you don't formulate a circle that's going to help you get where you're trying to go, you're not going to get there.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I was thinking about that this morning actually. Um, and when I look over my life, I've always played like the top level sports teams in the area, always was competing or being on the same team with people who some people went to the WNBA, went overseas to play basketball. So it's interesting at a young age for me, I realized that if they weren't trying to go somewhere because I knew I wanted a scholarship in basketball for college. If they weren't going anywhere, I wasn't hanging out with them. And so some of that for me going into business for myself was how can I get around people that have been in it for a long time? Because when I started my business at my age, none of my friends were starting businesses. Nobody, everybody else was just like getting into the workforce, and everybody wanted to climb this ladder. And I didn't have the what is the word that I didn't have the desire to climb a ladder. I didn't have the desire to be like everybody else, but there were people that I leaned on. And this is something I've always done is like I always have been around older people, 25, 30 years older than me, because they give me some wisdom of what life is like. And so one of the things I did was I just would start talking to people I used to say, "Hey, what's your 5-year plan?" And my mom used to tell me stop saying that. I did that at like 20. I started doing that at 21. And I just wanted to know, I was like, "Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years?" And for me, I think what I did was I started setting people to certain circles. So if you were like, "Hey, in 5 years I want to be here, I want to do this," and it was moving forward, you got placed in the circle close to me. And if you weren't there, it was no hard feelings. They might get placed in the circle like 3 circles out. And I just ran myself accordingly with that. Like I just ran life like that. And I remember when I was thinking about getting another degree, I want to remember one of my friends actually that I grew up with was like, "Oh, you're a professional student." And after that statement, I actually stopped hanging around the person because
For just one degree past undergrad.
yeah, they didn't want me to they were thinking like, "Why are you gonna go get your PhD? Why are you gonna," and I was like, "Oh, really?" So I actually stopped. Like I decreased my communication with that person because I knew that I didn't need anybody in my day-to-day talking down to me because I wanted to continue to gain this knowledge, right? And of course I was at an age where oh, you should get your PhD. You should continue to go into higher ed, where I could have easily gone to workshops and I could easily, gotten a certificate, but I just stopped. And recently this person just got their master's or their MBA during the COVID and now speaks highly about higher ed. And I'm like, okay, what, 20 some odd years later or 15 years later, now you see the importance or you see how it's helped. But I've just really been mindful of who's in my circle. But the one thing that I struggle with is seeking out mentorship, right? Because sometimes people who are closer to my age, when they see me doing something, um, they don't want to share. They don't like want to share their resources. And so when I go up a little, like around 10, 15 years or 20 years plus older than me, they have no problem sharing resources. They have no problem encouraging me. They have no problem really saying, "Hey, Marcia, this is what you need to do," or "This is what's holding you back." And like 20 2012, I started intensely working on myself in terms of my own healing because I wanted to be softer around the edges. I didn't want to be this angry Black woman. And so I sought out for 2.5 years. I intensely worked on myself. I had 1 to 2 sessions a week. Um, and then the stuff that helped me heal, and I continuously are healing, I started training. I started taking workshops under that concept and under that theory so I could bring it into my practice, but also so that I can help other people heal. So for me, it's been the struggle of having mentors, trusting somebody that they have my best interests at heart, and they do want to see me like meet my goals and help other people.
I think well, one of the things that you said there that I that caught my ear was when you said you didn't want to have anybody around talking down to you, and I think I think it's the opposite. People who are doing that, they're really talking up
Mm.
because they see you ascending and don't want you leaving them behind. So those those negative comments, like haters, you don't see anybody hating down.
So it's like the crab. It's a crab mentality, like the
Yeah,
crab in the barrel. Yeah. Yeah.
people are only hating up. They're looking up
Right.
at somebody and feeling that person has something that they want, or they don't want you leaving them behind. That negative stuff flows up. So
Right.
they're not talking down, they're talking up, but you still don't want, you don't
Yeah.
want those people around. Um, and it's like you said, it's very interesting that people people's opinion on something changes when they decide to do it. It was, but the self work, the self improvement journey that you went on, I think is imperative. Again, I'm speaking as a business coach. People have to be open to improving themselves because a business is going to require you to become someone that you are not currently. You are going to have to learn how to do things that you don't know how to do. You're going to have to get good at things that you don't want to get good at. Marketing and sales are the two easy examples for me. Most people have no appetite whatsoever for marketing and sales. They just want to make money doing what they do. Well, if you want to just make money doing what you do, you got to stay at your job because they have a team of people
Mm.
that all the other people that in that building that you work in, who operate on the different floors and in the different departments, those people are specialists who are doing the things that are necessary to allow you to sit at your job and just do your sit at your desk and do your specialty. Well, when you start a business, all of those jobs, all those things that all those other people are doing become your responsibility, especially marketing and sales. So if you're not willing to learn how to communicate about your business to strangers, to make them aware that you exist, and then have conversations with them to help them see the merits of your product or your service, and if it's the right solution for them, to sell it to them. And selling is not a bad thing. If you're not willing to develop these skills, you're not going to make money. It's just, nobody makes a purchase just because it's this, it may be the best thing in the world for them or what they absolutely need, but they will not reach that conclusion without a sales process. You cannot just put medicine on the table in front of somebody. You got to sell them on the idea that this is going to heal your problem. This is going to help you. And that's something that many, if not most, small business owners struggle with. Again, women in particular. What I've seen is that as a group, y'all don't like to sell, but it's something that you have to learn how to do. It's a skill that you have to develop. You have to accept that to achieve what you want to achieve, you have to do what that objective requires. When I'm telling people stuff as a business coach, these are not my requirements. I'm gonna ask you in the beginning, what are you trying to accomplish? What is it that you want? And when you communicate that to me, if it's something that I can help you with, what my job then becomes is communicating what it's going to require for you to do that, developing a plan, a systematic process for you to make consistent progress towards that objective. The requirements are not my requirements. They are the requirements of the objective that you communicated to me. I'm just conveying them to you in a systematic way. So if you don't want to do these things, then you don't want to accomplish what you set out to accomplish, because that's just what it takes. If you want to become a judge one day, you got to go to law school. You have to become a lawyer in order. You don't get to just be a judge. So the recognition that you have to do some self work, some self improvement, some transformation is something that is very important, I think, for anyone who's either considering starting a small business or you've started one and it's just not going the way you want it to go. More than likely, the problem is that you're not who you need to be in order to achieve what you want to achieve. and you may need business coaching to get help with that, or you may need therapy, or you may need both, and neither are deficiencies. These are not shortcomings. You nobody. If you look at Jeff Bezos, what he, the man he is now, and what he's doing, the things he's doing at the level he's doing, he didn't come out of college or high school knowing how to do any of that. He's
Right.
had to transform himself many, many times. At each new level, you got to develop new skills to get you to the next level, to get you to the next level, to get you to the next level. He did not figure out how to be one of the world's richest men by himself. It just,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that for Amazon. It doesn't work like that for your small business. So, and that actually, there's a part in the article where they start talking about, oh, here it is. Clance has seen clients healed not by success, but by the kind of resonance she found with IMES. Those are the two, Clance and IMES are the two researchers who pioneered imposter phenomenon at that time. Bolstered and sustained by group therapy with other women, it's easier to believe other women aren't imposters. They can bring this kind of recognition of others' delusion back to themselves. So what they're saying there, and this is something that I've observed, is that women business owners in particular learn well in groups, and when you're shortcutting yourself or undercutting yourself, you can't see it. But when you're looking at somebody else who has all the credentials in the world, and she's giving herself negative self-talk, diminishing her value and all that, you can look at her and go, man, that's, you crazy. You got this and this, girl. You got this. You can do that for somebody else, but you can't see it when you're doing it to you when you're downgrading yourself. And
Right.
so in a group environment, you can help each other. This is again the importance of not trying to do everything by yourself. In that group environment, you can talk to the woman who's hating on herself, and she can talk to you where you hating on yourself, and together you improve each other. And I wanted to get some insight from you on that.
Yeah, no, I think there was a couple of things that you mentioned in your a few seconds ago, in terms of like selling yourself. I know that I struggle with marketing and sales, and so I am working on that. But
Tell the truth.
I'm
Yeah,
working on that.
take them on that journey,
I'm
because
working on that. It's one of the things is kind of, I don't like to be out in the front, but I don't know how many people know, the Jackson 5. I want to be Tito, but the universe is saying I'm supposed to be Michael, right? I'm supposed to be front and center. And I struggle with that, and Lindsay has helped me, and being able to ask people to be on my team that really look at me and say, "Hey Marcia, I can help you get there." I, it's been really helpful. And one of the things when you said that, women in particular struggle with sales, I think that women are really great at showboating at times. Like, oh girl, I got this. Or I think that we're great, we can showboat in different settings. Or, oh, I did this. And one of the things I think is, you can actually, that skill of showboating, you can put that over to sales. Like, if you can, to put yourself out there, that's a way. Like, if you're already putting yourself out there in certain situations, I think it's a transferable skill. You just have to kind of learn the format of putting yourself out there. But you already put, I think that we all put ourselves out there in certain environments, and really think about what are the components in that environment where you are putting yourself out there, and how can you transfer that over to really put your product out there. So that was something I wanted to touch on. um Community, village. I think that, for example, if Black Girl Magic, right, they're subscribing to that mindset, I think that a village, a community is really helpful. And so, like, I've created a community called Marcia Hills, and it was really interesting this morning. I have three communities within Marcia Hills. It's the Cipher for men, it's the Lotus Circle for women, high achieving women, and it's Family Matters for parents. And it's pretty dope because in my Family Matters, parents are now talking, and they are agreeing with one another, they're sharing, and that makes me feel like it's this feeling of this community is being born, and people are going to start leaning on one another. And I think for me, when I village, a community is really big for me because I'm where I'm at because of my community. Where my mom might have struggled to give me certain emotions and certain emotional support, there was other women in my community that was able to give me that, or other men in my community. And I think that community really allows you to get to the place that you want to go, but they recognize and they show you the things that you're great at, and also they show you the things that you may need to work on, all while they're supporting you. um and this is not, I think that America is a very I society, but we need to incorporate we within being in a small business, or we period, in terms of your own mental health wellness and just your physical and mental well-being. Like, I have a team for a village, a community, for my own wellness, and that's really important. And so if I'm experiencing a health issue, I go to 4 or 5 of my practitioners to see if they know anything that can bring me back into balance. And so I think a community is really important because there's somebody to lean in on, somebody to provide comfort, but just to kind of give you the mirror, put the mirror in front of you of like, no, you're pretty dope and you're pretty awesome, without you having to like, oh, I am dope, like, because I think sometimes people think that um, they're being boastful. People, I know I would hear like, don't get a big head, don't think you're better than anybody, and I think that we've gotten mixed messages, and that kind of sticks in different ways. And I have that people come into my practice and talk about this of like, well, somebody did this on my job and it was better, or they got accolades, and I have to kind of scale back of like, let's write down a like a brag bank, right? What have you done? What are your accomplishments? Because what I see in high achieving women and this imposter syndrome is that they will set goals and tasks and like intentions, and they'll check off, but they don't sit and celebrate what they just accomplished. It's like on to the next. Well, and they never stay in the moment. They're never mindful of that. They're never like, oh, I just completed this big task. And I remember myself doing that. Um, and thinking that I haven't done anything or I'm not doing anything. And then when I sit back, I'm like, oh wow, like my partner was like, you went to NYU, and I'm like, okay. And he was like, that's big. And I'm like, it's just a school. um, or when somebody's like, oh, you got into the Hall of Fame, I was like, okay. And so I think that having a community can really be like, no, this is big. And I think sometimes we need to realize the importance of a community. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have a community.
So you mentioned real briefly, like you flew past it in like 2 seconds, Hall of Fame. Like tell people what that means. Like you're not just tossing that out. That actually you're in the Hall of Fame. Tell them what that's about.
um I guess the birth
Own it.
yes, and I'm okay, I'm gonna own it. So um I'm gonna kind of go back. So at the age of 12, I started playing basketball at 9, and I started playing soccer at 6. At the age of 12, I said that I wanted to be the first woman in the NBA, and I wanted to. My parents were putting all the money out, up front, that I wanted to get a scholarship um, to play college basketball. And so I just put my head down and I focused on that. Like, I didn't, there's things that people were doing growing up that I was like, I got too much to lose. And so what's interesting is, and I don't know if I shared this with you, what's interesting is my senior year, I was getting looked at small D1 colleges, but my senior year, actually, I only played 5 games in my basketball season because I was injured. And so some of the small D1 colleges actually stopped talking to me, stopped looking at me. And on my senior night, Virginia State actually came. They made a visit and they gave me an offer. They After the game, they gave me an offer. And it's interesting because I think about all the work I put into basketball, and I only played 5 games, but the work and the hard work still showed up, that I was able to still get a scholarship. And so my freshman year, I got MVP in college. And then my junior year, we won CIAA. And so we just got inducted. Our team just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Um, and we're the first team to ever get inducted to the Hall of Fame. And I guess what it means, everybody else tells me what it means. um, hmm, I guess for me, I look at it as a byproduct of my hard work of like being able to be in a team and understanding our roles and coming together um, for the same, like coming together to reach a goal. And we put in some hard work. It was 345 practices. We might not have liked our, our coach, but it was a team. It was a community, and we all endured something differently. And one of my coaches was a pastor, and he gave us a mustard seed to he gave us a mustard seed that year. And he was like, and it was a styrofoam cup and a mustard seed. And he was like, you need to plant. He was like, you need to water. So he gave us soil and all this. And he was like, you need to water this plant, this seed. If you had a good practice, it depends. You need to water according how your practice was. How was your day? And my junior year was pretty difficult because I was over the burnout. I was burnt out. I was over it. I just, because in high school, I was in chorus, I played soccer. I just had so many other things to balance me out. In college, it was like eat, sleep, shit, basketball. It was all of that. And so um the interesting thing is my mustard seed grew and a lot of people's didn't. And I grew up in the church and all that, but I leaned in on those principles of it's having faith, but it's of leaning in on everybody who is experiencing the same thing. And the interesting thing about it is we all are family. We might not talk to everyone, but we come together. And even the men's basketball team, we all came together because we were all experiencing the same thing. But I think that if I didn't have that, I I don't think I would be where I am today. Like if I didn't have the concept of team and a community, I don't think I'd be where I am today. And so I know that a Hall of Fame means something to may have different definitions to other people, but for me, it's an added bonus to what I had throughout my life playing team sports.
So your path to the Hall of Fame involved teamwork.
Right.
That's a very important point for people to grasp. Just playing individuals, it's not, and especially in small business, trying to be an individual is not going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
Uh,
And and that's interesting you say that. When I think about it, I just think about all the coaches that I had. They saw me, they saw me, they saw our potential and like the people that I gravitated towards. And that's and when I think about it, it's when I get to the goals that I need to get to that I think throughout my life, it's been with coaches. Yeah.
Excellent. Um, so I'm looking at another part of the article I highlighted. Imposter feelings often arise most acutely from threshold crossing, from one social class to another, one culture to another, one vocation to another. In the context of small business, I think that threshold crossing where I've triggered people is one economic class to another. When what I've observed is a phenomenon. Here you go.
Sorry guys, he had to cough. He didn't want to
Here you
he didn't
go.
want to make you feel he didn't want to
Trying to
interrupt your
run a professional production here, and this I got the Peanut Gallery as my co-host.
Of course.
Y'all don't know my struggle. Uh, um, actually, we're gonna cover the history of how this show came to be, but the threshold crossing with the economic threshold crossing is what I wanted to focus on. The fear of success is like I work with a lot of people. I started originally teaching video marketing, teaching people how to use video to promote their businesses. And this was years before the pandemic. And most often, what I saw was a fear of failure. I'm going to look like a fool on camera. I'm going to, just people are afraid to fail. And once you get them past that point, what I discovered or learned, became aware of, is something much worse, which is the fear of success. That was something that I found really, it was unsettling to see people who were more comfortable in perpetual struggle than they were with the idea of no longer having to struggle. When again, when I working with somebody, put them on a program and it's working and they see it start to work, and then they just blow it up. They just derail the program altogether, and in favor of staying in a place of perpetual insecurity, choosing to just keep treading water, and sometimes not necessarily, your head bobbing below and you swallowing a few ounces of water, rather than getting into a boat. And it was to see the same thing over and over and over again, was again one of the many things that made me realize this is not a coaching issue. They know what to do, and at this point I can see what this is a refusal to do it. Why is this person refusing to do what they know is in their own best interest?
Well, so I had fear of success. I was fearful of success, right? I'm gonna be honest. Um, and so I'm gonna break it down to a little bit. We talked about Black women. I'm wondering if that mentality is like being a freed slave, or versus if somebody says, "Here's your papers," and some slaves stay on the plantation and other ones leave. Like the thought of, oh snap, there could be a different life, and that fear. And so some of that, I'm wondering if that's passed down from generation to generation, right? And kind of, it's a learned behavior. Like, as long as I'm making this amount of money, I'm good. I don't want to be greedy. And if they grew up in the church, I think that there's these mindsets, but I remember I was fearful of success. I used to write it in my journal. I used to tell people, and they're like, I don't understand that. And I'm like, well, I am, but it is a phenomenon. It is something right now. I'm not fearful. There's other things that I am fearful of, but I don't no longer say I'm fearful of success. But I'm just wondering if there's these certain mentalities that are getting passed down, that they don't know what does success look like? It's almost like, hey, I dreamed to Z. I didn't know that there was anything past Z. And so when you give them the opportunity to say, hey, there's other letters that we don't know that you can go get, you know, um, it's it's just like, how some kids have an imaginary friend. Did you have one?
Nah, one of my cousins did though.
Okay. So it's like when the adult tells you to stop having the imaginary friend. And so then their reality, their imagination actually gets like stunted. And so there becomes this, you're telling them to imagine, and that what you're imagining can truly happen. And they're too scared because there's nobody else doing it, or the people that they see doing it, they don't have contact with, or they can't plug into. So like my godfather, who's my second cousin, um, he was my man. He had his own telecommunications company. Like he had his own dump trucking business. He laid like the foundation for the buildings in Crystal City. But it wasn't until he was like late 70s, early 80s, he died maybe 3 years ago, that I knew he like was a millionaire. I didn't know that. I did like, and so when I told him I was starting my business, he would like support me like, hey, Marsha, do what you need to do. But I think if I would have known that he was that, because he didn't he would help people and all that stuff, but if I would have known that, I think I would have the fear of success wouldn't have been so scary, because I knew the things that he had done, but but I also saw how lonely he was. But he was like my best friend. I would go over his house and we play I Declare War. It was just something. But I think that parents can like put a thumb on, you can't have that, you can't imagine that, you know. I think society, it it cuts you off. And I know, I, and speaking from my own experience, I know my fear of success. I no longer say that. And you've helped me with that. Like me asking for help, I now see myself going to the places that I want to go. And sometimes I struggle, but I no longer use that verbiage.
One of the things that you said that I heard was, I don't want to be greedy. That, and I've heard variations of that. What I've heard is, I don't want to make too much money. When in the context of me working with a woman business owner, it's always men never say I don't want to make too much money. Never. It's always women. And I've heard I don't want to make too much money more times than it's just weird. And I always ask, okay, well, do you feel like you have enough money now, or you're on pace to have enough money to retire one day, and when you want to retire and live the life that you want? No. Well, what is the concept? How are you worried about having too much money when you don't have enough? Like can we get to not having enough money to having enough money, and then maybe worry about too much money, but you're worried about having a surplus when right now you're at a significant deficit for what you're going to need. Most
Right.
people are just treading water when it comes to their income. They
Right.
cannot handle a significant incident, a significant uh, incident that has a significant cost. They're just not able to absorb that. So anyone who is in that position, you really have no business worrying about making too much money. You need to stack up a nice healthy cushion. And I think that's going back to emphasizing one of the points you made about not knowing your uncle was a millionaire, and not having a real understanding of what, or a healthy relationship with money, because this level of comfort with making just enough money to sustain your livelihood, that's not real security. And to be comfortable, to develop a mindset where you're comfortable and secure in that place, and don't want to go to a place where you have an abundant surplus in case something happens, or even if it doesn't, so that you can just live a better life. That's something that I believe, a combination of business coaching and therapy, mindset work, um,
Yeah.
is necessary. I've just met too many women who have money blocks. They just,
Right.
the idea of making plenty of money, getting paid a healthy amount for the services they provide, and not having to work like a dog to do it, is a concept that they vigorously reject, which sounds weird, but I see it all the time. They would rather work extremely hard for not quite enough money. And I'm not talking about corporate environments. I'm talking about, again, the small business world,
Right.
where you set your prices. You get paid whatever you tell them they have to pay you. And
Right.
if you're not charging enough, you're not being oppressed. You're doing that to yourself.
Not, you know, it's interesting. I'm taking this course, and it's if it centers around family systems, and the one I'm taking right now is on the mother, and it talks about mother gives you life, but mother, depending on your relationship with money, money is based on your relationship with your mother. And if women have constantly had that mindset around, I don't want a surplus, then us as women actually need to work on that and bring our mothers more into our hearts, but understand, money revolves around our relationships with our moms and a relationship with ourselves. So I get it. I mean, in doing my work and healing, I've gotten better, but I think that you're right. Business coaching and mindset coaching, therapy, um, getting to understand and look at the themes, you know, the themes around money, the themes around talking about it. You know, what does that look like? How do you want to dance with it? What do you want life to look like? And I think sometimes people feel that it's not attainable.
Let's talk about let's talk about Marsha Hills some more. Your community. Let's talk
Yes.
about what it is, but let's first begin with how it came to be, because I think that's an important instruction for women business owners who are not achieving the success or the fulfillment that they were looking for. A lot of them, from what I observed, they leave corporate America to start a business, and you can, in many ways, create a worse situation than the one you left behind, because running a business can be extremely isolating. And
Right.
if you don't understand that and take deliberate measures, because there's no longer a water cooler, there's no, you know, there's no office kitchen, there's none of that. You on this island by yourself, and you will either be deliberate about putting people on this island with you,
Right.
or you're gonna be there by yourself going crazy. Um, and so tell them, tell everybody the story of how we came to meet.
How we came to be.
Came to meet.
Oh, came to meet. So I got asked by a soror to speak on um, their talk show, and shout out to Sharon.
And action.
Oh, she not in food. I was bad. I'm just as bad. I'm just as bad. I'm just as-
Lord, Lord, Lord. Okay. Are you ready?
And so he sent me the information. And what I did was I actually researched Lindsay when she told me that. Like, I don't know how I found out who you were, but how I found out you would be recording. And so I started researching, and I was like, oh, I got to talk to this guy because because you had something that I wanted that I knew that I wasn't an expert in. And so I came to the spot, the kitchen, the recording, and I was talking to Sharon. We were getting interviewed, and I actually asked Lindsay. I was like, "Look, this is what I'm trying to do," and you were like, "Well, I can help you right now. I don't. I almost like I don't take clients. Like I don't. I can just tell you what to do and I write it down." And I was like, "Okay," but um, so I remember that. But it's interesting that those next couple times I can't remember. I don't remember our conversation, but I remember he said that, and then we would start having like 6 o'clock meetings in the morning. Like, all right, it almost happened like I felt like 3 times a week. Just being able to. What Lindsay did was he listened, and usually I'm the one who listens um, to people and read in between the lines. And whenever I can find somebody that listens to me and really says, "Oh, this is what you said," or "This is what we can do," and we can create. So when Lindsay and I sat down on a call, mind you, I didn't have his phone number. I just got it. I had the privilege of getting his cell phone number. But we've been like Zoom, and we'll communicate, via email or whatever. I was creating a course for high achieving women. I know he's mad at me right now, but it's okay. But we created we create I was creating a course for high achieving women, and he was like, high achieving women. Well, he was like, when are you going to get this course out? Like, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And so he told me to join his community, which is grown folk business. And he was like, you need to create a community. So he actually came up with Marsha Heals. And first it was high achieving women. And I guess I was sending out my invites to men, and he was like, "What the hell are you doing, woman?" Like he was like, "How if this is for high achieving women, why do you have men coming in?" And so, you know, I was like, well, I can usually like get men together and talk, and they are vulnerable. And he's like, all right. And so then I started the cipher, I started Lotus Circle for the women, and then we had this conversation around how I was seeing a lot of teenagers and a lot of kids getting admitted to the inpatient psychiatric hospitals. And he was like, man, he was like, well, won't you create a guide? And so I didn't create a guide. He thought I was just gonna like create like a PDF, like one page. And I created a whole, like, I just spoke to somebody the other day and they were like, there was a lot of information in there. And I was like,
A comprehensive mental health resource for families is what she created. And it was one of those scenarios where you know somebody is you know they're a professional, but when you actually see an example of their work, they're like, damn, you actually know this stuff. It was one of those situations, and I had to, and I continue to have to turn Marsha upside down and shake stuff out of her because she had that in her all along. And when she actually delivered it, put it into the form of that online course, and I saw what she had in her mind that could help families, I got pissed. I'm like, man, you got all of this, you holding all of this within, like, I got to shake this out of you. But eventually we got that course out of her, and that it's going to do some significant work to help families and to help Marsha help more families. I'm going to bring this back to Marsha, but I wanted to cut in here real quick because this is important. By productizing her knowledge, taking all of that expertise and putting it into the form of an online course, that is a tool that is now going to make it easier for her to help so many more people. Instead of having to communicate that same information over and over and over and over again to different parents, she's now just done this one-time brain dump, put it inside her online community. Parents can join, get the therapy benefits of the community itself, having fellow parents to communicate with, fellowship, share tips, provide support. They're getting the guidance from the licensed therapist, Marsha. They also have access to the online course, which has all of these resources in it, which include preventive mental health care resources, which is critical. It includes diagnostic resources in the form of teaching parents what to look for. What kind of things do you want to, behaviors that they can observe that had they not been trained, they might not know what they're seeing. And these behaviors can lead to problems down the road. So you need to be able to know what you're looking at. Those kind of resources are in the guide, as well as resources for different types of programs and organizations that a parent can reach out to if their child is experiencing some problems and needs some help. So it is a comprehensive resource for parents who are concerned about their child's mental health, which all parents should be in today's age. Social media, particularly for young girls, is a toxic place, and we all have to do a better job of being vigilant about caring for each other's mental health, but particularly parents caring for their children in their formative years. There's just so many things that exist now that can create a problem for somebody that did not exist when I was coming up, when Marsha was coming up. Like the kids coming up in this social media era, I just feel so sorry for them, because these tools have provided them with an opportunity to inflict a level of cruelty and inescapable bullying that didn't exist when prior to social media. You couldn't just go online and hound somebody and chase them around forever. That didn't exist before. Now it does. And resources like Marsha's healing community, and specifically her mental health care guide for parents, are invaluable resources. And this is why it's important. this is why the work I do, I feel a challenge to do the work I do, because there are so many women like Marsha who have these immense resources within them that they can use to help the world. But you can't help anybody if you can't market your business. You
Mhm.
cannot help anybody if you cannot sell. And this is something that I've had to go over and continue to go over with Marsha. And this is why I want to, well, I'll take it to sales for a minute. Selling is helping. Selling is helping. In Marsha's case, she has a community where parents will focus just on the parents for a minute, where parents can go to get resources to help them do all the things I just talked about, protect their child's mental health and enable them to become a strong, healthy adult and be a productive person living a fulfilling life. If that's the outcome that you can deliver, you got to charge for that. You have to get comfortable charging for that. That is, the parents are willing to pay, but they need you to communicate just like what I just did, explaining the benefits of the community and what it offers. Somebody's going to look at that and go, damn, I need to check that out. I need to that sounds like what I need to do. That's marketing. Sales is when you get on the phone with them and listen to their specific situation and determine whether or not what you offer is actually a solution for them. And if it is, you have to extend it to them an invitation to join the community to pay you for the service that you provide. And that part is something, that's the part where a lot of women struggle. Well, the marketing part, communicating their value, and then the sales part, actually closing the deal when you have somebody on the phone or in a video meeting or whatever. And these two things are imperative for being successful as a small business owner. You cannot help anybody if you cannot market. You cannot help anybody if you cannot sell. And if these are things that you struggle with, you got to get some help on that. You got to get some coaching, because you're not going to be, if you can't market and sell, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. You're not going to make money, you're not going to help anybody. And yeah, you're never going to maximize the potential that you have. All those credentials you've amassed, all that experience you've amassed, you will never be able to deliver the maximum benefit to the world and reap the rewards of the benefit that you deliver to the world if you do not learn how to market and sell. These are not evil things. If you're selling healing, if you're selling poison, then selling is a bad thing. If you're selling healing, how is that a bad thing? But go ahead and pick up
Yeah.
where you left off.
Oh yeah. So no. So everything he's saying, he's helping me with marketing and sales. So Family Matters came and he was right. He got pretty pissed that he had to turn me upside down to get the coins. He was like, "So do you have a Nobel Peace Prize?" And I was like, "No." And so that's I think, this article that we read, it even speaks into the imposter syndrome. Like, am I good enough? Like, I know what I have in my bag, but and so then the Family Matters came about. And so Lindsay, I knew that Lindsay was probably about to throw in the towel with me. He's very, very transparent and like, if you can't help me, I don't need you no more. And so I got on a coaching call with him, and he was like, if you don't have one person in your community um, by Thursday, it was a Friday, I think we talked. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna go find somebody else. So
Let me
I-
explain that, because Marsha had all of this. Like, we had this, because this is important for people to understand. We had at that point been building Marsha Heals for
is that
3 or 4.
90 days?
I think it was, we started probably in October. So October, November, it's like 4 months.
Yeah.
So everything had been built. Everything was like, so what, this was by this point, we were in February, the middle of February. And the community was online by the end of the year, end of 2022. Everything was ready. We were supposed to have a big launch in January. It was supposed to be like January is a special time for transformation. When you think about gyms, that's when most people enroll in the gym. I'm going to be get in shape this year and blah blah blah. So when you run a transformative type business where you're helping someone achieve pursue an aspiration, January is a special time. You can get people signed up who you otherwise would not be able to get. And so everything was designed for a big January launch, big enrollment, and then we carried that momentum forward throughout the year. And what happened was January came and went, and Marsha ain't sell shit. And so I'm looking at this going, what in the world? And then she starts to sidestep. I can see this because I've been doing this. I know what I'm seeing. When someone sees that the program is working, they start looking for stuff to do to keep from moving forward. And this kind of goes back to when we first met, when she said, I just said, look here, you can just here you can do these things, and I can just tell you what to do and write it down, because I've learned to give people a chance to protect my time and my sanity. I've learned how to give people a chance to either rule themselves in or rule themselves out. Because from a coaching perspective, again, my stuff is systematic rather. I can tell you, if you tell me what you want, I can tell you exactly how to get it. So I'm going to give you simple instructions. And this is what I do with people. I give them simple instructions. Okay, you're trying to do, all right, well, here's the first 3 steps. All you got to do is this, this, and this. Here's how you do it. If they can follow those simple instructions, okay, well, let me give you something else. And instead of me pouring myself into somebody who's not going to do what's in their own best interest, I just give them something small. And if they do it, okay, let me give you something else. Okay, if you do it, okay, well, this is somebody, let me, people at this point have to prove to me that they're worth my time and my energy, because I've just gotten frustrated with pouring so much into people and then they won't do what's necessary to pursue their dream that they told me they wanted help with. So I'm not going to do more for you than you're going to do for yourself. And I've learned how to avoid that situation. So that's what
That's
she's
a
describing.
therapist. That's what they teach in school, that you can't work harder than your client.
Okay. So that's like stuff I'm learned through the school of hard knocks. And so that's why she had the experience she had the day we met. Cause I'm like, yeah, everybody says they want to have this great, fantastic life where they're doing, but nobody wants to do the work. And so, but then when she proved herself, and then we started making progress, and then the progress stopped. And I'm looking at like, okay, Marsha, why didn't you? Well, I got to work on this. So when you start working on what I call busy work, stuff that is not critical, not relevant really to anything, it's just, I'm doing something to say I'm doing something, but it's not actually moving you forward. It's just, lateral movement or just marking time and place. I know what that is because I've seen it so many times with so many different people. Like, okay, she's scared to win. She sees success around the corner. She sees that what we're doing is working, and now she's engaging in self-sabotage. And she's just want to stay where it's comfortable. And so we had a come to Jesus moment. I was like, look, I already told her. I learned this it's a quote I got from Michael Irvin. I love it. If you can't help me win, you can't be my friend. And he's speaking in the context of what he was doing with the Dallas Cowboys and the championship run that they went on. And it really was all about the championship. If you cannot help me, my goal is this championship. If you cannot help me win this championship, I can't be around you. And from my perspective as a business coach, and with a bigger ambition in mind, like my vision of myself is empowering people who empower other people. And Someone like Marsha, who I see has the potential, all the potential in the world to help a whole lot of people live a more happy, more fulfilling life, I can help you do that. I can help you reach many more people and do it consuming less time and less energy than what you're currently doing. I can show you how to leverage the internet to turn your knowledge into whatever kind of life you want and help other people create the lives that they want. If I can help you do that and you're not going to cooperate, I'm done with you, because I can't help people by working with somebody who, wasting time and energy with somebody who's not going to do what's necessary for them to be able to help people. So, I can teach you how to use your wings, but if you insist that you're going to keep walking, I'm gonna leave you behind. And so that
Right.
was basically what I communicated to Marsha. And it was either step up or step off. And she chose to step up and immediately started making sales, which she could have done all along. She started getting people into her community, and now she's helping people and delivering, the healing that she's capable of doing. She's making the world a better place because she chose to step into step out of her comfort zone and step into her greatness. She has a significant, profound ability to help people, and now that she's embracing it fully, not just the regular way that, helping people on a one-off basis, traditional therapy model. With the internet, we now have tools that you can help people at scale. You can help a whole lot of people, and Marsha's now doing that, and that gives me fulfillment. I'm able to, I'm helping her. She's helping her people, and now she's going to be able to help other women business owners who who are where Marsha used to be, and now she can basically coach them from an empathetic standpoint, where she has walked the journey that they had to walk. She had to get past the levels of the threshold of discomfort that many of them are struggling at. She can say, yeah, I was there. I know what you're doing. And you're going to have to do it. And when you get to the other side, guess what? You will not die. I'm still
Yeah.
here. And, here, the happiness you want is on the other side of that discomfort. And it's really just all in your mind. I think Marsha can attest to that. Whatever it was that was stopping her from making a sale, when she didn't have a choice and she made a sale, well, that whatever that obstacle was, it just went from being this huge thing to being nothing at all.
Yeah. No, it it was that's true. And I think it was I didn't want one aspect of it. It was like Lindsay is a great resource, and I didn't all the time that he put into me, I didn't want you to think that I took you for granted. And also I had to let go of the control that there's somebody who sees beyond what I want. And I do that for my clients. Like I see things in them that they don't even realize. And so I had to say, let me get in the passenger seat and let me trust Lindsay, because everything that he's told me to do has worked. And let me get out of my own way. And I had to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And once I became comfortable with the uncomfortable, it became comfortable. And it was really like, Marsha, I knew my goal from, I can't remember how long it was, but I've always wanted to have a community. I always have wanted to touch more people and be global. And like I started a company in like China, like with three other people, and that felt good because it was a community, it was a group of us, and just those resources. And I've learned so much from a community and a village approach. And so I just got comfortable with the uncomfortable, and then it became comfortable. Like I started reaching out to my community of people and resources and networking, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I I was like, okay, let me reach out to 13 people and say, hey, can you do this? Can we get on a call? And just starting to put myself out there, when I started doing some calls, and Lindsay pinpointed, he was like, Marsha, every time somebody gets off of a call with you, they feel better. So use that towards your advantage. And so we Marsha Heels came out of that mindset. But it's interesting because even just our conversations we have, something's always born. Something always is birth, something, an idea, or hey, the first time we sat together and for a while was high achieving women. And I was like, I don't know. And then when he saw the men in my community, he was like, what's up? And then we talked about that. And the cipher came about, and then Family Matters, when I was telling him about, a lot of kids were going into inpatient facilities, mental health, um, inpatient facilities. Um, and he's like, well, just create the pamphlet or whatever. It, it evolves through conversation, and it really feels good for him to be on my team, and my motto is, if I eat, he'll eat. Um, and I'll work my ass and bust my ass off to make sure that people who are on my team will be taken care of. So yeah.
So we talked about Family Matters. We talked. We'll talk talk a little bit more. I guess I'll set it up about the cipher. It's from my perspective, it's a place where men can be men, quite frankly, and get a safe place to get some therapy, because there's a sentiment running through society, at least in the United States, where men are constantly under attack, and for male behavior. I'm not talking about bad male behavior. I'm talking about just being a man.
Right.
Everything has been labeled as toxic masculinity. Just masculinity has been labeled as toxic. Is really what it effectively has happened, and it's kind of like the pendulum has swung the opposite way too far, the wrong way. The middle is
Yeah.
where tranquility lies in everything,
Yeah.
and being at either extreme is not good. And so the extreme where women are oppressed obviously is not good. Well, the extreme where um, women have free license to say anything about men and demonize all of their behavior, that's not a good place either.
Y-
Um,
Yeah. And that causes more division, right? And that causes more division in community with, males and women, men and women. And so the cipher is basically, and every community, every group actually meets twice a month. And so there's that virtual component, that the community component, where we meet and we talk. And so in the cipher, actually, it's a it's a space where men can talk about men's issues. And the way I look at it is this: is if a man was born, if we want to talk about toxic masculinity, right? If a man was born to talk a certain way, and us as women, or us as a community, expect them to be able to communicate better, and not talk that way, where are they going to learn that? Where are they going to learn how to speak? So if they want to learn how to speak better, or emotionally, conscious of people's emotions, I feel that men need a space to be them. And so, to speak about the stressors, like I recently had a group of men, and I talked about, so what do you do for self-care? And they were like, just sleep or go to work. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah. And so we talked, and so I talked about different resources. I think that there were three people. The people were not the three people, but they were from three different regions. And so I provided them resources with, like, if there's acupuncture, if there's, Eastern medicine, if it's massages, if it's, hey, look at a black doctor, the importance of taking care of yourself, or just simply going outside and grounding. We had this conversation about that. And interesting enough, one particular person started getting out and started dating, and they were like, I don't feel as stressed. Um, and and so it's just a space that you can be you. You know, something that I recently posted was about anger, of how to manage anger and what are the different anger is a isn't a it's a healthy emotion. It's just depending on how you like how it shows up, if it's destructive, right? So we talk about that, and we my whole objective is to make sure that you know how to take care of yourself, self-care, but you have a place to communicate, because having the world on your shoulders is not cool, and I understand that that men are carrying the world on their shoulders, but nobody really is checking in on men. And so I think it's really important for men to have a place to have that place where they can be them, and if they have to speak a certain way, it's not taken, nobody's offended that they can speak the way they need to speak, so then they can get their emotions out. And if they need to learn that emotional vocabulary, they can learn that in that space from one another. And then I'm there to, facilitate a safe space for them to be them. So, yeah,
Cool.
that's what Cypher is.
All right, now you got to tell them about Lotus Circle and what support you're able to provide for those high achieving women.
The Lotus Circle. So the Lotus Circle is for high achieving women, right? And the Lotus Circle is a space where you can let your hair down and you can be you, not based off the things that you've done, but just based off of you. And so in that space, there are guided meditations. I mean, in all of them, there's guided meditations. Um, we talk about relationships. We talk about the mask that you may wear. We talk about how to set healthy boundaries so you can have the right people in your life, and and how to show up as you unapologetically and not be somebody else, and not be the person that other people want you to be. And that one has two, Zoom calls a month, and it could be Wellness Wednesday, and it might be a guided meditation or self-care Sunday where we may do a silent reading. But in this community, you can really lean on one another because there's other high achieving women. And it's going back to the topic of the show is imposter syndrome. I think that a lot of high achieving women have that. And so we lean in on the community to be able to just to digest and to understand the themes that are running in our lives, of kind of how did this identity get built, and is this identity that you want to continue to live. And so through that, we get you to a place of you live the life you desire and you deserve. And so that's the Lotus Circle. And also I understand, like, being a high achieving woman, I've lived that, and it's hard. And I think that a lot of people don't understand it that are on the outside. But I also know that we we don't allow other people to help us. And so I really think that the community is important, that you need help to get to the next level, whatever it is. And I want you to be I want you to be in this life. I want you to live life the way you want. I don't want you to have any regrets. So, yeah.
Excellent. So I think we've covered quite a bit, and
Yep.
this is a good place to wrap it up. This is Marsha and I have these kind of conversations all the time. We're going to now start to share this. And really, this is most of the episodes will not be like this, because what we intend to do, our intent is this is a show for you. So we are going to start having guests. So basically, you get to put yourself in the hot seat and get some business coaching and some therapy to help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. So this is a show for small business owners. I'm going to put a link in the description box below where you can sign up. You can apply to be a guest on the show, and we'll talk about your business. We're going to talk about from the coaching aspect. What are your objectives? What's your revenue target? What is your skill? What are you trying to do? What do you want your life to look like? And I will be able to give you guidance from a coaching standpoint, a business coaching standpoint, a marketing standpoint. And Marsha's going to be able to offer you some guidance from the therapy standpoint, because Marsha and I are an example of why we need each other. Men and women need each other. I'm going to be able to tell you exactly what to do. And some of you are going to need help from Marsha to figure out why you can't do exactly what you know you need to do. You have very simple instructions and you can't follow them. And so that's the benefit that you will get from Marsha. Obviously, everybody's not going to be able to be on the show. So you have the opportunity. I will also include a link to Marsha's healing community, marshaheals.com. I'll put a link to that below, so you can reach out to Marsha, join there, and I'll provide a link to where you can reach me, how you can contact me, and begin getting vetted to determine whether or not you're somebody who I can help, because I'm here to help people who are serious about helping themselves. I'm not gonna fight you. If you don't want to do it, fine, stay where you are. I will help people who want help. So yeah, look for those. Check the description box for those links, and yeah, we'll see you in the next episode.